Are you fascinated by the paranormal and want to hear about encounters that have happened to real-life people in real-life places? Do you need a drink to calm those nerves after hearing some scary stories?
You're listening to Booze and Bourbon.
Well, we invite you to grab a drink, whether it's a coffee or something with a little bit more spirit in it. Grab a blanket, snuggle in, because I'm Kim and that's Jen, and we're Booze and Bourbon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Booze and Bourbon. I feel like I'm on a game show, and my name is Jen, and this is Kim.
Come on down.
I know, I just feel like that's what I sound like right now.
You do. It's a really great voice. I like it. Thank you, Jen.
I feel in a horror movie, it would add extra, spice to the movie.
Yes. Well, you and I are on location right now, and we do have a creepy motel that we're staying in, and we also have a shower, so we could do like the psycho shower scene.
Yeah, it also has weird smells here, and like the lamps,
Bates
the bathroom.
Motel.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Okay, so anyway, I think I know how you're doing. You have been so gracious as to get me coffee today and also fill it with rum cream. So thank you so much, Jen, for participating.
Anytime. I just had to drive around the ghost town to find it, but we found it.
Good point. It actually is like a ghost town because it's a touristy town and pretty much everything is shut down because of COVID-19, even though there's no cases here. Mm-hmm. I think here in Canada, we have this CERB check, CERB, and it's for people that cannot be gainfully employed during a pandemic. And I feel like everybody in this town is collecting that check, even the seagulls.
The seagulls do look pretty hefty right now. They're eating well. They look like they're eating well. They might even be drinking, actually. One of them almost flew into my window, so they're enjoying it.
God. Been starting the day off fantastically with some rum cream.
Yes.
And we've got a great episode here for you today. So this is something that has recently kind of come to light for one of Jen's friends. Mm-hmm. And it's something that, is one of those ever intriguing things. Like, how does this work? Do we have proof that this actually works? Like, what is it? And that thing is reincarnation.
When you find a dime, that's supposed to mean it's a sign of a loved one. Mm-hmm. So then I had a friend who passed away right before her 27th birthday of cancer, and her thing was always ladybugs. So there's been many times where her mom, and I think I told you this, like in the middle of winter, would send a picture on Facebook to all of us about this ladybug in her bathroom, which of course would be weird in the middle of winter because they wouldn't be around.
Right.
And then we all got on like the habit of sending pictures to each other when we saw them, but they would always be like, obviously you see ladybugs through certain seasons, but like, it just depends on like where they pop up. That makes it different. So if you're like laying in bed and all of a sudden the ladybug's like on your arm, like, well, that's could happen, but like at the same time, you like to think that it is that person coming to visit you. So I feel like you're a little bit more open to that because you're like, oh, that's her.
Yeah, good point. One of my other very good friends, I was taking some family photos for her. Her mom had passed away. I was taking some family photos for her and her husband and 2 kids, and all of a sudden, a little ladybug landed on one of her children, and I just about cried because I was like, she's here. Mm-hmm. So sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they also say that about birds and butterflies and all of those little magical things that fly through the air. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're going to deep dive into some really cool stories about reincarnation for you guys today. But before we go any further, we're just going to continue on this lovely whiskey journey. Well, I shouldn't say we had whiskey to start our day, but we had rum. So we've got the Bearface Triple Oak Canadian Whiskey, which is a cool bottle. It looks like a bear literally scratched the side of the bottle. Mm-hmm. What intrigued me about this is that it's finished in bourbon, ex-bourbon American oak casks, and it's also finished in French oak casks, which had red wine in them. So we're kind of getting a little bit of the Angel's Envy finished in port cask kind of situation happening here. So I was pretty stoked about that. So it's got a nice color to it. It's light copper. And like I said, the bottle's pretty cool. So what I tend to taste when I taste it, it's not as spicy and robust as a bourbon would be, but there's lots of light sweetness of like maple and butterscotch in there. And also some baking spices like vanilla and clove and cinnamon.
I like that they throw in there the virgin Hungarian oak.
Yeah, you like virgins,
Hungarian.
Or is it the Hungarian that you like?
I liked the Hungarian part, but virgins are nice too. Didn't sound weird at all.
Okay,
anyways.
So now that we've been saucy, we're going to play our favorite little game, aren't we, Jen?
Yes.
Would you rather? If you died and you came back as a mammal or a human, would you rather come back as a big old shark and chomp your way through the Atlantic Canadian bubble? Or would you rather come back as a human and not be my friend? I wouldn't know you.
Oh, what the? She always gives me the tricky ones because, like, I love sharks and I would love to be a shark.
Yes.
You know, do shark, do. Anyway, I would create my own song, but
Baby shark.
Yeah, but I'm not a baby. I'm an adult shark.
You'd be like a cool mama shark, like a big ass chomping mama shark.
Yeah, I want to have a hoop through my fin. So I look cool.
Oh.
I'm a Dartmouth shark. Say something. Anyways, see, that's just not a good question because I would love to be a shark, yes, but then I wouldn't get to be your friend. And you wouldn't know me, so I would just be like the weird shark with the hoop that flies that swims up to your boat. So I'll be reincarnated as like a new friend.
Okay.
Maybe with a new hairstyle.
Oh, okay. I like it.
You won't know it's me at first, but then like you'll catch the vibe and you'll be like, I know she's in there.
Or you could be crop dusting in the corner of a room and I'd be like, that reminds me an awful lot of Jen.
Or that, yes. So there we have it. Okay. So we'll stick with the same one for you then. Would you rather come back as the coolest looking Sasquatch ever? Almost with like the elf hairdo. Do you remember Elf?
Oh, do I?
So that guy, I just touched that with my nose. Or would you rather come back as the bent neck lady, but the 2.0 version? So she's actually kind of hip. She just walks with like a kind of like sideways limp and her neck's a little bent up. But she's very wealthy.
Oh.
So you're rich and you're bent neck, or you're a Sasquatch.
I mean, that changes things. The money. No, I'm just kidding. I don't ever want to have a bent neck, regardless of how much money I have sitting in my bank account. So Elf's cool. Sasquatch are cool. I'm coming back as sassy. And you know what? They're very elusive in the woods. I feel like I could have a very stress-free lifestyle because I know how to hide from people.
Yes.
I don't require anything like at the store. I just kind of do my own thing, eat my blueberries, make friends with the bears. I could maybe make Bearface whiskey, but like sass face whiskey.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you don't need pedicures because you're wearing your toenails down on the ground. So then there's that.
All right. Well, that's my answer. Guys, just after the break, we are going to get into today's main topic, which is all about reincarnation. Stay tuned. Welcome back. All right, so as we mentioned, we're going to get into stories of reincarnation. If you don't know what reincarnation is, let me take you down this lovely road of what it is. It can also be called transmigration, and it's in religion and philosophy, and it's basically the aspect of rebirth of an individual that persists after bodily death. It can be consciousness, it can be mind, it can be the soul, or it can be some other entity. Depending on the tradition, these existences may be human, animal, spiritual, or in some instances, vegetable. Potato. So a lot of these have appeared in Middle Eastern religions. It's also been known in modern religions or religious movements such as theosophy. And in many local religions, belief in multiple souls is common. The soul is frequently viewed as capable of leaving the body through the mouth or the nostrils and of being reborn, for example, as a bird, butterfly, or as an insect. So that also makes me think of ancient Egypt when they would mummify people and they would bring all of the organs and everything out through the nostrils. Mm-hmm. And among the ancient Greeks, they often thought that the soul survives bodily death and it's later reincarnated into another human or another mammal body, eventually receiving release from the cycle of birth and death and regaining its former pure state. Plato, in the 5th to 4th century BCE, believed that an immortal soul that participates in believed in an immortal soul that participates in frequent incarnations. Interesting. So there's other major religions that hold belief in reincarnation. Some Asian religions, especially Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and they're all from India, basically. And then there's also the doctrine of karma, which states that what one does in its present life will have its effect into the next life. So yeah, there's that. You better be good in this life, according to them.
I have a friend. She had recently, well, not very recent, but in the last 5 years had lost her dad. And I didn't know this till after this had happened, but he was a lover of birds, bird watcher, took a lot of pictures of birds, was very into birds, we'll put it that way. So she had told me one day she was out in the backyard with my dog. And for anybody that knows my dog, he likes to chase birds and has occasionally caught one or two. So this little pretty brown bird with a fluffy white chest and some brown dots on it kept coming down and going towards the dog, almost taunting him, and then would actually chase him on his little feet, run.
The size difference is crazy between the little bird and your big dog.
Yeah. And that my dog wasn't really even paying attention to it was the weird part, she said, because typically he would have chased it and jumped at it. And he was just more or less not caring, and it was just chasing him around. So that got her attention initially. And then she kind of came down a little farther into the, down the stairs. And this bird just all of a sudden came over to her and just kind of sat beside her and was just looking up at her, staring. And she was like, this is so odd. Not only did you try to get my attention with the dog and the dog's acting different with you, but now you're just sitting super close to me and just kind of staring at me. So we had talked about it. And I think she already kind of knew what I was going to say. So I was like, well, do you not think that maybe that was your dad, trying to get your attention and being I'm here. Hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
And obviously, because, dogs sense things and they're a little bit more in tune to that as well. So the fact that Lou left it alone and was kind of I know something's different with this one. I'm not going to bother it.
The whole scenario makes everything just so different than your average bird with your dog.
Yeah. So that's where I think this initially came from, because I was like, well, I told you the story, and then I'm we should, dig a little deeper into this.
It's a great topic. It's something that I've always wondered about, but I mean, I still don't know that after this episode that I will have a firm grasp on how it all works, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So after doing a little digging, I did find a cool article on ranker.com. So it has, 15 different stories of reincarnation. So we're just going to go over a couple of those. All right. So our first one, a 4-year-old recalled life as a Hollywood agent. In 2009, at the age of 4, Ryan Hammonds began waking up, clutching his chest and screaming about how his heart exploded in Hollywood. His mother, Cindy, became intrigued when Ryan revealed more details from a former life. He insisted he once lived in a house in Hollywood on a street with the name Rock in it, where he had 3 sons and a friend named Senator Fives. One day, Cindy was going through a book featuring photos from old Hollywood. Ryan peeked over her shoulder and excitedly identified one man as George and another as himself. Cindy contacted a psychiatrist from UVA Medical Center who conducts research on reincarnation. The psychiatrist verified the man in the photo was a film star named George Raft, and the other man was Martin, who died in 1964. Upon contacting Martin's daughter, she confirmed Martin was a Hollywood agent, lived on North Roxbury Drive, had 3 sons, and once met with New York Senator Irving Ives.
Oh, weird.
After meeting with Martin's daughter, Ryan lost interest in his Hollywood memories. He was standoffish at the meeting and told his mother afterward his daughter's energy had changed. The psychiatrist's explanation: upon seeing people from their past have moved on, reincarnated children gain closure and forget their former existences.
It's really weird. Okay. The next one is a Chicago fire victim was reincarnated as a 5-year-old boy. At first, Erica Ruhlman laughed off her 5-year-old son Luke's odd tendency to call toys and objects Pam. She was also unconcerned by his comments about having once been a girl. He would say he had black hair when he was a girl, or that he wore the same earrings as his mom when he was a girl. Out of curiosity, Erica eventually asked Luke who Pam was. I was, he said. Well, I used to be, but I died and I went up to heaven. I saw God, and then eventually God pushed me back down, and when I woke up, I was a baby and you named me Luke. After pressing him for more details, Luke told his mother he lived in Chicago, took the train a lot, and died in a fire. After mentioning his death, Luke made a hand motion indicating somebody jumping out of a window. When Erica punched the information into a search engine, she discovered a news story about a fire in the Paxton Hotel in Chicago. In March of 1993, 19 people died in a fire at the building, and a woman named Pam Robinson perished when she jumped out of a window. Erica couldn't explain how Luke would have known about a fire in Chicago. He had never been to the city, and she had never discussed it with him. While the haunting story of Pam Robinson could be a coincidence, it was enough to make Erica believe. Crazy.
Yeah. So, this one. 2 sisters killed in a car accident were reincarnated as twins. John and Florence Pollock were devastated when their twin daughters, Joanna and Jacqueline, died in a car accident on May 5th, 1957. The following year, they were thrilled to hear they were expecting, and once again, Florence was carrying twins. The twins, Jillian and Jennifer, were both identical except for Jennifer's birthmarks. She had a birthmark on her waist, similar to a birthmark Jacqueline had, and a birthmark on her forehead that resembled one of Jacqueline's scars. John and Florence moved away from their old home when their daughters were 3 months old. John and Florence told Jillian and Jennifer very little about their late sisters, but the girls seemed to share Joanna and Jacqueline's memories. They would request old toys that had belonged to the deceased twins, recognized landmarks when traveling to their parents' former home, and were inexplicably terrified of cars. Upon seeing oncoming traffic, they would shriek, "The car is coming to get us." Luckily, by the age of 5, these frightening memories mostly faded away. The girls went on to live relatively normal adult lives. However, their story is still frequently cited as evidence of reincarnation.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I love it, though. Mm-hmm. A Midwestern toddler recalls writing Gone with the Wind. That's intense. Mm-hmm. From the time he was 2 years old, a Midwestern child named Lee insisted that he had another house and another mommy. By the age of 3, he began saying he was born on June 26th rather than his actual birthday, which was June 21st. Lee claimed his middle name was Coe. He wrote movies for a living and had a daughter named Jennifer. His sister asked him how old he was when he died, and he promptly replied 48. Lee's curious parents relayed the titles of several movies to Lee, asking if he had written them. When they mentioned Gone with the Wind, Lee became enthusiastic. He eagerly claimed he wrote the film. After a quick Google search, Lee's parents learned the writer of Gone with the Wind was Sidney Coe Howard. Howard was born on June 26th and had a daughter named Jennifer and passed away at 48. As these details of Coe's life were unknown to Lee's parents, it's unclear how he knew them. This leaves reincarnation as a possible explanation.
A child's birthmarks match a bicyclist's deadly injuries. Punima Ekanaiki of Sri Lanka was born with unusual birthmarks dotting her lower ribs and chest. At a young age, she began speaking of a past life. After a school trip to a temple 145 miles away, Punima insisted she lived in the town across the river from the temple. She claimed she was once a male incense maker who died in a traffic accident.
Perfect. I mean, we need incense makers around here right now.
We do, actually, yeah. Her father traveled with his brother-in-law to the town in question, Kalania. They asked around about local incense makers and found the name Jinadasa. Jinadasa had been an incense maker who died when he was hit by a bus while riding his bicycle. Her family took her to Janasa's home, where she was able to identify his wife and daughter and name the school that Janasa had attended. Her family, Punima's family, had no prior contact or connections with the Janasa's family. It is difficult to explain how she got such specific information correct. There were the birthmarks. Janasa's autopsy report showed several fractures and bruises from the accident that ran along his lower ribs and left side. So that is very weird that she would know that.
Yeah, that is strange. So this one is apparently largely based on rumors, but a reincarnated boy solved his own murder. Allegedly, a 3-year-old boy from Golan Heights near Syria was born with a red birthmark on his head. He claimed this was from being murdered in his past life. Physician Dr. Eli Lash claims to have investigated the story. Lash took the boy from city to city in Israel until the boy recognized a village. He walked around the town for quite some time before approaching a strange man and saying, "I used to be your neighbor. We had a fight and you killed me with an axe." Then the boy led Lash and the accused man to a spot where he claimed to have been buried. A skeleton was found in the ground with a wound in the skull corresponding to the boy's birthmark. The man he accused eventually confessed to having murdered his neighbor 4 years prior.
Whoa.
Crazy. So yeah, I don't know if you guys believe in reincarnation at this point, but if you just do a little search on the internet, you'll find a lot of stories about it. So, I mean, there's lots of religions that talk about it, and I definitely think it's a thing.
And I think it's a fun thing to think of too, because if you think of, something that you lost that you're like, I wish they would, pop up occasionally. Mm-hmm. But if it was like a cool little animal or insect that you really liked, mm-hmm. that just randomly started coming to visit you more often, then you would be like, this is nice. Like, I'm scared of spiders, but if my grandma came back as a spider, I'd be okay with it. I'd be like, it's all right. It's just her. She can hang out.
Right. Well, yeah, I get that. If one of my relatives came back as a snake, though, I don't know how much I'd be able to handle it. But regardless, I think it definitely gives people comfort. And, it's a way of dealing with grief as well. If you think that they're watching over you, and they very well could be, you just can't see them. And then when you see something in a phisical form, it takes it to a whole new level. That's really cool. So if you guys have any reincarnation stories, we would love to hear them. I've never had a reincarnation story really happen to me in my life, but anybody that has passed that is close to me, but I would love to hear your stories. So you can send them to our email, which is boozeandbourbon@gmail.com. And Jen, if people want to reach out and touch us, they can't. But you can find us on social media. How can they find us on social media?
We do love a good Insta story. So you can follow us on Instagram. Mm-hmm. You can also follow us. We are Booze and Bourbon on Instagram, yes. And on Facebook, Booze and Bourbon, the podcast. Any provider of podcasts, you can listen to us there. Of course, give us a great review. And we occasionally spotlight on Twitter and YouTube. But other than that, we're locally famous in our hometown. So, I mean, you can just drive around here and find us too.
Shut up. We are not. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening today. Please stay spooky, stay hydrated with whiskey, and we'll be back for an all-new episode next Friday.
Thank y'all.
Cheers.
Booze and Bourbon is part of the ABV network. For more information or to advertise on the show, please head over to abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.